Hey there, and welcome. Have you ever felt like the world is just a bunch of separate boxes? Like you've got science over here, art way over there, and history is in a totally different building? Well, today we're going to dive into a really powerful idea that says, actually, they're all connected by a hidden pattern that weaves through everything. So let's just jump right in with a big, kind of wild question. Think about it, a galaxy spinning out in the cosmos, a perfectly structured poem, and the very DNA that makes you, well, you. What in the world could they all have in common? It sounds like some kind of ancient riddle, right? But the answer, you'll see, points to this incredible, profound unity in our universe. And to find that answer, we're going to start by exploring this amazing central metaphor. It's a shape that pops up everywhere, from the unbelievably huge to the microscopically small. Now, our guide for this whole adventure is the Òrga Spiral podcasts, created by Paul Anderson. And these podcasts, they aren't just about listing a bunch of facts. No, they're on a mission to trace these hidden threads across all these different fields that we're usually taught to keep completely separate. And this, right here, is the key, the golden spiral. It's this beautiful mathematical spiral that just keeps growing without ever changing its fundamental shape. And we see it everywhere. I mean, from seashells to hurricanes to entire galaxies. So the Òrga Spiral podcasts use this pattern as a metaphor, arguing that human knowledge kind of works the same way, that science, art, and history aren't really separate subjects, but are all part of one big, unfolding, interconnected story. Okay, so that's the big idea. It sounds cool, but does it actually hold up when you look at the details? Let's check out some really concrete examples where these worlds collide in the most surprising ways. All right, get ready for this, because this is one of those incredible aha moments from the podcast. Think about the structure of DNA, right? Our biological code. Now, think about the structure of a classic poem, maybe like a sonnet. It turns out that the Fibonacci sequence, that simple pattern where each number is just the sum of the two before it, is a fundamental part of the structure of both. It's like the same mathematical harmony that builds life itself also helps build our art. How cool is that? And this just perfectly shows the kind of thinking this whole approach sparks. It makes you ask these much deeper questions, Is our creativity just an echo of some mathematical pattern that's baked into the universe? Could understanding biology actually make us better storytellers? Suddenly, all those lines we draw between disciplines they completely blur. And once you see a connection like that, you really can't unsee it. It totally shifts your perspective. Instead of seeing a world full of fragmented, separate subjects, you start to see this single, cohesive system. You start looking for the links between logic and art, and it just sparks this profound curiosity to find even more of these connections. So this spiral of knowledge, it doesn't just connect different subjects like science and art. It also winds its way back through time, helping us uncover these forgotten patterns of thought and old philosophies and histories that we might have totally overlooked. For example, the podcast digs into ancient Gaelic philosophies. And these aren't just, interesting historical facts. They represent entirely different ways of seeing the world, perspectives that really challenge some of our most fundamental modern-day assumptions. And you can really see that contrast here. Our modern world, it often puts this huge emphasis on individualism, right? This focus on the self that, let's be honest, can sometimes lead to feelings of alienation. Well, the Gaelic traditions were rooted in something they called relationality, the idea that who we are is defined by our connections to each other and to the land around us. Their traditions were all about restoring communal harmony, not just individual success. And that, of course, brings us to another really powerful question. In an age where we talk a lot about social isolation and ecological crises, what can we actually learn from these older ways of thinking about community? It's all about using the past to maybe light up a different way forward. This exploration of history also gives us these powerful ideas for personal change. There's an episode on the poet Kurihara Sadako that offers this just incredible metaphor for how to deal with conflict. And it suggests we don't overcome darkness by just fighting it, but by doing something way more radical. Just let that sink in for a second. To transform darkness, we must nurture it into light. This isn't about just sitting back and hoping for the best. It's an active process. It's this idea that inside the source of the conflict itself, what the poem calls black eggs, is the potential for transformation. If, and it's a big if, we have the courage to nurture it with empathy and with understanding. So we've seen how these connections between DNA and poetry, between ancient wisdom and modern problems, They don't just hand us easy answers. They push us to ask better questions. And really, that's the whole point here, learning how to question things in a way that truly transforms how we see the world. The real goal here is to become an active participant in understanding how things work. And that means we have to dig beneath the surface. It means going back to the great humanist writers, sure, but also making a real effort to highlight the hidden histories, especially the feminist and other marginalized stories that challenge that official version of history we were all taught. And that leads to this absolutely critical question. When we bring these lost stories back to light, it's not just some academic exercise. It fundamentally changes how we understand our culture, how it was built, and where power really truly lies. It basically reshapes the entire map. And to tie it all together, we land here. From that Gaelic sense of community to the idea of nurturing darkness into light, the common thread running through all of it is empathy. The podcast just keeps pushing us to ask, how can this fundamental human quality become a real tool for justice and for healing the fractures we see in our world? And ultimately, this is what we're left with. The point of exploring all these spiral connections isn't really to find a bunch of neat, tidy answers. The real value is in the journey itself. It's about sparking this incredible intellectual adventure that's fueled by asking deeper, more transformative questions. So, I'll leave you with this. After seeing how a simple spiral can link a galaxy to our own DNA, and ancient philosophy to our modern problems, what hidden connections are you going to start looking for in your world? The pattern is out there, just waiting to be found.